All right, good morning, everybody. I'm really honored to be here. I'm super excited that we even have this District 204 Mental Health Symposium because not only am I an employee of District 204, but I've also raised 3 kids in our district. 2 are still in high school, 1 has graduated. And so I am really happy that we are offering these types of trainings to our parents, that we're trying to equip you with knowledge and information and helping you to best support your own kids. So honestly, I know there are many other things you could be doing, and the fact that you're willing to come today and invest this time to learn more I'm so grateful because it impacts not only your children, but the other kids they go to school with every day. So thank you for being here. So coaching your child through big emotions, that's what we'll be talking about today. Is this cat, does anybody know who this cat is? I was trying to remember. Calvin and Hobbes. Thank you. I'm like, why is it not coming to me? Anyway, I love this, because never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. And that's kind of what we'll be talking about today is when my child is escalated, when he or she's having a hard time, what do I do? And if you were here for our guest speaker, and I learned so much in those opening speeches this morning. I was feverishly taking new statistics and information, and so we know that it is difficult being a kid today. It is not easy, and it's not easy being a parent. So welcome today. If nobody's told you yet, welcome to the hardest job you will ever do. It is also the most rewarding and the most engaging, but it is not easy. So ask questions as we go through today. We already did all that. And I'm going to try and be done a little early so we can do some Q&A if we get to that point, okay? But here's what I want you to be able to leave with. I want you to have a different lens for looking at behavior. And we're going to talk a little bit about brain science. Did any of you attend the Marty Byrne session next door? And he talked about it. So we're going to talk about that as well. Mine is a little different. The information is a little different. But it's so important because it's science. Like, it's hard to refute what's actually going on in the brain and the nervous system when we're not in a good space. I also want you to have 1 or 2 more skills to build emotional competency in your own kids. I also hope that you will come away with 1 or 2 things that you can start to do differently when you're in that moment and responding to big emotions, and how not to respond. And then care for you, because like I said, it's not easy being a parent, and I just want to share a few resources at the end, okay? All right, so we're going to start with behavior. All behavior is a form of communication. It's trying to tell us something. One of my favorite gurus in the field is Dr. Ross Greene. I have his website there on the screen, Lives in the Balance. It's an excellent resource for educators and parents. But he is known for this quote here: children do well if they can. And I always say I've never met a kid yet who wakes up and says, today I'm going to do whatever I can to make my mom's life rough. Or I'm going to come to school today and I'm just going to be the worst kid I can be because I just want to make someone else miserable. I haven't met anybody yet that's their mindset. When a kiddo is struggling, there's a reason why. And part of our job is trying to figure out what that is. So if they can't do well, if they aren't doing well, we as adults need to figure out what's getting in the way so we can help. So this is a mindset, right? This is a theory. This is a mindset by this practitioner, but there are a lot of people in the field who've adopted it. It's one that I use with my students and my own kids. If they're not complying, if they're not following through, if they're throwing a tantrum, if they're being rude, if I can get beyond the behavior, I can look at why. What is getting in the way? Because it cannot be fun for them to be miserable all the time either. So the theory of Dr. Greene is that there's either a lagging skill, something they don't know how to do yet, and we either need to teach that skill or get them the support and help they need, or that there is something else getting in the way. So we need to figure out what those 2 things are. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, or an unmet need. So the other thing we look at is what are the basic needs? I know Christine in our opening speech talked about kids not getting enough sleep. The lack of sleep can cause a lot of issues. So are they getting enough rest? And a lot of times parents will say to me, yeah, he goes to bed at this time and he sleeps till this time. But what is the quality of the child's sleep? Are they getting good rest? And those are things that, as parents are like, I'm not sure, I don't know what to do. Go meet with your pediatrician, ask those questions. Are they hungry? Are their needs met? Are their physical needs being met? And we heard a lot this morning too about connection. Are they feeling connected? Are they feeling safe? Are they feeling loved? And we may say, yes, I pour love on you all day long. But again, it's do they feel it? Are they seeing it? Are they feeling connected? And we'll talk a little bit about how we can figure that out. All right, so we talk about different lenses. I sat in Marty's for about half, and I know he mentioned the same thing. The lens we use to look at behavior matters. So we have a child sitting in the middle who's clearly not doing well. One lens says he's just being a manipulative, problematic, difficult child. The other says something's going on, he's lacking some kind of skill. So we're going to talk a little bit about what do we do in the moment, and then how do we help teach those skills so that we can hopefully reduce those numbers of times when we're struggling with our kids. All right, so this is the brain science part. I was never a science kid ever in my life, but the older I've gotten and the more I've studied behaviors and trauma and the impact on kids, this stuff has become more and more fascinating because I've seen it play out in my own children and I see it play out in the lives of our students. So this is based on the work of Dr. Dan Siegel. Again, a lot of people in the field use his. He's a child psychiatrist. He's teaches at UCLA. He's done a lot of work in this area. But we are beginning to teach a lot of this stuff to our kids in 204, in the schools. They're beginning to understand their own behaviors better as we begin to teach this flipping of the lid. Have you ever heard that before? Have your kids ever talked about that? Upstairs brain, downstairs brain. I'm doing a lesson, for example, right now in second graders about the prefrontal cortex of their brain. This is our thinking brain when we make good choices and we make good decisions. But underneath is this amygdala. It's like our guard dog. It's that part that's always on alert. And sometimes it gets us in trouble. It's good for when we really are in danger and we need it, but when we're not in danger and we just want 10 more minutes on our Xbox or our Switch or whatever, I'm not in danger, so I gotta learn how to calm down that guard dog. So upstairs, downstairs brain. So this is just an easy analogy for us. That upstairs brain, as we talked about, the cortex of our brain is really that thinking brain. This is where we feel calm. This is where we're able to activate our skills. We can play, we can problem solve, we can engage with each other appropriately without a meltdown, without yelling, without screaming, etc. And that only happens when we're feeling safe, connected, heard, validated, etc. And then as our stressors increase, or as we are triggered by either past events or unmet needs or whatever it is, and this is us as adults as well as our kids, right? We go down into that downstairs brain, and that is what we call this amygdala, as we explained to the kids underneath here, where that guard dog is. And that's where our big emotions come in, and we get defensive because it was put there for us to protect ourselves. It's just that when it's activated when it doesn't need to be is when we are having troubles. So this is what will happen here, right? Kids go into that fight stage, arguing, not backing down, I demand, this is what I need. They go into flight, I'm gonna escape, I'm just out, I'm checking out, I'm literally leaving the space, I'm not doing this. Or they freeze, right? Meltdown, shutdown, or surrender. That's when we are screaming for help, because what do we do now? And they are too. So we'll reference this a little bit more as we go through. So I want you to kind of think about, it's Monday morning, and if you've ever felt like this, you're not alone, and you're rushing out the door and you're checking to see if you've got everything. Do I have backpacks? Do they have their lunches made? Have I sent a note to the teacher because I'm sending them out early? And now I have to get to work and I have an appointment, and have I got my own lunch? And we have all these things that are going on for us, right? And all of a sudden, we think we're good. We're driving to school. And then our kid says, I have a math test today and I'm going to fail it and I'm not going to school. Ever happened? Okay, it's happened to me. Or my friend's not talking to me and I don't know what to do and I am not going to school. I'm not getting out of this car. It's an example of now the child's triggered. We've gone into freeze. We've gone into fight. And I need to get somewhere and you need to get to school. And what am I going to do? All right, so we're going to go back to some of this brain science again. Whoop, back up, sorry. Okay, so we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We're going to start talking about those triangles of how we're going to react, how we're not going to react, and what's going to be helpful and what's not going to be helpful. And I want to give you some very specific strategies and words and language you can use that could be helpful. Talking about emotion. So again, we're going to come back to that. What do I do in the moment? Here's where we're talking about emotional awareness. Talk about feelings with your kids. Ask them not only how they're feeling, but you can use examples in books. Books are great. Movies are great. Even their influencers. I do this with tweens and teens. Like, wow, somebody, whatever language they're using, right, roasted so-and-so, but she was this, and I wonder how it made her feel. I wonder what she's thinking inside. And a lot of times it's easier for our kids to talk about someone else than themselves, but in doing that, we begin to start building language and vocabulary, and we're just normalizing talking about feelings. And we can compare, oh, that would make you frustrated? Okay, tell me more about that. I would probably feel really disappointed if that happened. And here's why, if they care to listen or not. But you begin to again have that dialogue. So reading with our kids, movies, social media. I wonder how your friend felt when that happened, when they're coming home from school, talking about their day. How was it? Fine. What'd you do? Nothing. I mean, I get caught in that same trap with my own kids. But when we begin to start asking specific questions like, how was it at lunch today? Did you sit with so-and-so? Did you guys have fun? Oh yeah, what'd you do? What'd you talk about? And I'm talking our elementary age kids right now, right? Oh, that happened to so-and-so in your classroom? Wow, how do you think she felt when that happened? How did you feel when that? I wonder how the teacher felt when that happened. And so we begin to build, again, language, vocabulary, competency, and through a lot of that, we can do a lot of problem solving too. And then we talk about the modeling of healthy emotions or healthy modeling of emotions. Our kids are looking to us all the time. They're watching us to see how we're responding. They're listening to how we respond, what we say, what we don't say. They read our body language, our facial expressions, their tone, our tone. They're so sensitive to those things. And I like to use the example sometimes with our staff. For example, when we talk about emotion and tone and modeling, the statement, I didn't say you were dumb, or I didn't say you were stupid. Either way, I didn't say you were stupid. And our kids pick up on all this stuff. I didn't say you were stupid. I didn't say you were stupid. And so not always what we say matters, but how we say it, right? And so are we able to regulate our own emotions? When we are challenged, when we're in that downstairs brain, how are we calming ourselves down? How do we model taking a break? Do we stop and take a deep breath? Or do we just jump into reacting and responding? So we'll talk again just a little bit more about that. It's one of my favorite quotes. L.R. Nost is an author and does a lot of work with children and families. But yeah, when they're overwhelmed, it's not our job to join in the chaos. It's our job really to share our calm. And if we don't have calm, then we need to find ways to get it. And that's why that self-care part is so important, and finding our own support that we'll talk about a little bit at the end. But it's really imperative that we are able to regulate our own emotions before we can expect them to do that. So if you take away nothing else from today, this is something I want you to take away. This is just a really great acronym for reminding ourselves of This is really those in-the-moment responses, the 3 R's. This is, now that you're armed with some basic brain knowledge, okay, we talked about, the being put on alert and how we respond, and going into our upstairs brain, we're able to think, downstairs brain where we're reacting. We also want to connect with our kids starting at that bottom, in that lower brain. Again, if they're in that lower brain, are they able to reason? No. Are they able to converse with us in a way that makes sense and is logical? No, they can't. Yet as parents, what do we often do? Our kid is dysregulated, they're having a hard time. If I go back to the example of the 3rd, 4th, 5th grader who now doesn't want to get out of the car because he has a math test and he's afraid he's going to fail it, if I immediately go into reasoning with him, is he even hearing anything I'm saying? Nope. It means nothing to him, and if anything, it's going to escalate him even further because all he hears is, you don't get it, you don't understand, and it's a big deal to me. And so we got to be really careful that we're coming in where they are, meeting them where they're at, and that bottom slip triangle is in regulation. So this is the work of Dr. Bruce Perry. He's another leading neuroscientist, and he's a researcher and a clinician in psychiatry. The 3 R's is work that he has done, and again, widely used by a lot of practitioners. But again, it's the process of moving from the bottom up. And again, it's a developmental process. This takes time with our kids, and it takes a lot of practice. Do you know how old we are before the brain's fully developed? 25. Yeah, 25, they're saying 26. Yeah. And the last part to develop is this prefrontal cortex. And this is where we reason, this is where we regulate, this is where we make good decisions, we organize, we prioritize. So all those things take time. All right, so like I said, this method is not easy. And again, it's going to take practice and it takes mindfulness because we are challenged when our kids are not in a good place. It triggers me. I don't know if it triggers you. I mean, it's definitely taken time to learn to breathe, slow down, meet them where they're at. But we can do it with a lot of practice. All right, so let's go into, oh yeah, this is important too. And it seems like, well, yeah, duh. But in the moment, we often forget it, right? So when we are dysregulated and we're not calm, we are never going to be able to help them calm down either. All right, so what do? We really do, have to put our own oxygen mask on first. So I love this image because it helps us to remember, okay, get myself right first before I'm going to be able to help him or her. Okay, so now it's happening. You're in the moment. He or she has lost all kind of control, and I need to get somewhere. My time is limited. All I can focus on is just stop, you're okay, you're fine, right? And let's get where we need to go. The first thing that really we need to do is just pause and take a deep breath. 1, your brain needs it for regulation. 2, you're already modeling. You're already modeling without saying a word. Okay, and really accept that it's happening. It's going to happen. It's a normal part of development. It's how they're learning and problem solving and figuring out the world. And so meltdowns, breakdowns, and tantrums are going to happen. If it's a littler kid, the best we can do to get on their level, right? Sit next to them. I think Marty had mentioned it too. Getting on the floor if we need to or if we can. Or just turning and giving them that full attention. Letting them see that you are connected, that you are plugged in. Minimize the words. Less is more in this case. Again, because what starts to happen is they're overwhelmed by either our comforting words, which are totally well intended, right? But again, for them, it's too much to process. It doesn't even make sense. And now I'm more annoyed because I can't even figure out what you're trying to say to me. So what can we say? I'm here. I'm listening. Tell me more. Okay, I didn't realize you were worried about this. I can see that this is hard for you. Okay. Maybe it's touch, a pat on the back. Maybe they'll embrace in a hug. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they want it, sometimes they don't. Depends on your child. You need to know them, and you need to know the moment. Using proximity. Sometimes they literally want you to clear the room. Just leave me alone. I had a girl in 5th grade tell me the other day that she was struggling with the death of a family member, and it's been hard for the whole family, and her dad just doesn't get what her needs and what she needs. And I said, well, what would you tell him? She says, well, the other day I went upstairs and I went in my room and he thought I slammed the door. I didn't think I slammed the door. I just went up. And so he came up and said, why are you slamming the door? She's like, I didn't slam the door. Well, it sounded like you slammed the door. And they got engaged in this back and forth. And she said, I said, what would you have liked him to do differently? She goes, first thought, I'd just rather he left me alone for 5 minutes. And just for 5 minutes, let me just be alone in my room. And then if he had to come up there, I wish he would have just asked me, did you slam the door? Is there something you need to tell me? Is there something bothering you? She goes, well, right away he assumed, that's what I was doing. So we want to sometimes, like I said, proximity works. Sometimes they just want to be left alone. And I think the biggest thing that is really hard for us as a parent is to avoid taking it personally, especially if you have a kid who starts spewing a bunch of stuff at you. I hate you, I don't like you, you're mean, you're the worst. I know we have kids that will curse and cuss and, it's what's coming out. That stuff we can deal with later. But right now, I'm not going to take that personally because the moment I take it personally, what's going to happen to me? Right? Now I'm escalating and I'm going to lose it and everything I'm trying to do is not going to work. So avoid taking it personally. You're going to need to deal with that part of it later. Focus right now is just really on making them feel safe, loved, heard, connected. The word, Marty talked about validation. Validation is huge. It is for us. We as adults want to be validated. There are times I want my spouse just to understand what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling, or my boss or my coworker. Our littlest kids, they want the same things. Just hear what I have to say. Hear how I'm feeling. If this is happening in public, ever happened? Happened. Ignore other people. Just ignore them. Do what you need to do. Address your child's need. I know the instinct is often, we got to drag them out of here because we don't want this happening here. But if we can stop, breathe, minimize, and just stay in proximity, we can begin to do the de-escalation. Okay, is it going to work perfectly every time? Absolutely not. I'm realistic. It's not going to work every time. But this is the best approach we have, and this is where we're going to begin. And the more we begin to do it, the better we will get, and the better the connection becomes. And we can help our kids get where they need to go. All right, so the bottom of that triangle is regulate. The next one is relating. So as our kids start to calm down, or, and this is with whomever it is you're working with, right? This could even be a coworker. It could be a peer. It could be your spouse. This approach is applicable to anyone that's in distress or is dysregulated and you're trying to communicate with. So at this point, we want to start validating those feelings, because once they're be able to start expressing to us, I'm angry, I'm just really annoyed, you don't ever this or whatever. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I hear that you are really angry right now. And again, this is where the tone, the inflection, our body language becomes so important. Because if I'm like, yes, I hear that you're angry, you might as well say nothing at all, right? Okay, I get it. I get that you are angry right now. And use their language if you're comfortable with that. If they say, forgive me, I'm pissed off. All right, I see that you're pissed off. The more validation that happens. Again, we can coach later when they're calm. Like, hey, when you're really angry, do you think maybe we could work on what would be a better word for when you're feeling that thing? That can happen when we're calm, but it's not going to happen right now. So using that calm, genuine tone, we're still using fewer words because we are not getting to reasoning yet. We're not problem solving yet. We are just starting, the tears are starting to dry a little bit. The heart rate's finally slowing down and they're able to start listening to what we have to say. And again, our focus is on connection. And connection happens when we validate, when we really see, when we really hear, and they know we're getting what they're saying, or at least we're trying, right? We can ask more and say more. And they'll be like, no, that's not what I meant. Okay, well, tell me again. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. All righty, so let me go into reasoning. So once the child really is calm, this is where we begin to reason and repair. So we want to talk to them about well, first of all, if it's a problem that needs to be solved, this is where we can talk about. Okay, so you don't want to go to school today because you have this math test and you're extremely worried about it. I get that. I hear what you are saying. However, I need to get to work today. Your teacher expects you here at school. You've prepared for the math test. What do you think we should do? And I know that that gets really scary as a parent to start giving kids an opinion. But again, you still get the final say. But if they get to start expressing, well, I would like to, or I would, or I think, we can go, well, okay, maybe, but I don't think we can really do that. Maybe we can try it this way. Giving them some control or some input, when again they're calm and they're able to regulate, again gives them skills to start problem solving on their own later on and helps them to feel like, okay, you hear what I'm saying. So we can start brainstorming some problem solving solutions. And then we can also talk about alternatives. So if it was just a meltdown to having to get off their devices, because that is a very common one, I know in my house and from other parents I talk to and work with, we can talk about, okay, what can we do instead? Because this isn't working for me. This isn't working for you. You got upset. I'm upset. Your brother's turn is next. He's missed his minutes. Like, what are we going to do about this? And let them be part of the solution, because the more that they buy in, the more likely they are to, follow it down the road. And the device one, I'm telling you, is tough because it's like a drug. And it's the hardest one, I think, that we battle with as parents. But again, reinforcing and setting the limits. Don't cave at this point. Don't cave. You are only shooting yourself in the foot. God knows I've done it many, many times. Or they can be really, tactful and creative in saying, okay, I know, and I'm really sorry, but next time I will if you just let me. No, I'm sorry. I'm glad. I appreciate that. I'll be watching for that. But the limit is this, and this is what we're doing. And it may re-escalate again, and that's often why we give in, right? Because we don't want to deal with another meltdown or another tantrum. But they just know then the next time, maybe I have to do it twice, or maybe I have to do it 3 times. But it's hard, but setting those limits, staying calm, and if they have the meltdown again, walk away. Let them have their meltdown. As long as they're not hurting themselves or hurting someone else, let them have their meltdown. Because you've already talked through all of this. You've already said, this is my expectation, this is our limit, if you've been able to stay calm through all of it. Now, if you're not able to stay calm and it sends you back up, my husband and I used to tag each other out. And that is why I would say to him, no, I don't want you joining in right now. I've got this. But the minute I don't, I'm out and you need to be ready to come in and deal with this. So if you have a partner and you can work that out, great. If you don't and you're doing this on your own, then step out, remove yourself, take yourself away so that you're able to get calm and get regulated again too. I'll give you another tip. One of the things that I recommend to my teachers using a lot, and I have had several that keep it just, sticky noted on their laptop. You could put it on your bathroom mirror. You could put it in the driving, on the steering wheel in your car. My kid's not giving me a hard time. My kid's having a hard time. And when you can go to that perspective, you can avoid that taking it personally stuff just a little bit more, just a little bit easier. None of this is ever going to be 100%. These are just mindsets and practices that take time. So again, my kid's not giving me a hard time. My kid's having a hard time. And I truly believe that in all of my work with kids and research and really following and seeing what works out there. When kids can do better, they will do better. All right. And then again, reassure you love them and you care about them. I mean, right now, I had 2 boys. They're 20 and 18. And we had a lot of struggles with my 20-year-old. He has ADHD pretty significantly, and he had a lot of anxiety in high school. And it was extremely challenging. I'm a counselor. I had no idea what I was doing. I couldn't do it. We had to get outside help. Thank God we did, because he's doing much better today. So there is always hope. I want you to know that. Always, always, always hope. Now, my second one is a totally easy kid. He's just go with the flow. He's good-natured. He's pretty, doesn't take things with, pretty much with a grain of salt. He's pretty happy all the time. He was just an easy kid. Now I have a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman in high school, and I love her to death. She's a good kid, but she's extremely independent and has a mind of her own, and has since she's been really little. So here I am kind of back in this place again of this challenging, like, I want to do it my way kind of kid. We do battle. We have conflicts. What I have learned from my first is losing my cool just did not work, and I had to learn how to work on that. Now with her, I rarely lose my cool with her. And the difference between her ability to function and my son's is remarkable. And I really think the difference is me and my husband. Our ability to say, you know what, we're not going down on your sinking ship with you. We can handle this. I love you like you will never understand. But nope, you're not going to sleep at your friend's tonight for the 3rd night in a row. It's not going to happen, sorry. But why not? I just said why. Thank you. See you later. And I walk out of the room. Because she's not going to hear anything other than all she wants to hear is, yes, you can go, right? So again, we'll talk about taking care of yourself, because that's so important, because we really do have so much more power than we think we do. But it all starts with where we're at. So loving them, reassuring them that you care and you get, and I've said her many times, I know this sucks. I know, and if I were you, I'd want my mom to say yes too. I get it. But no, I'm sorry, we've made a decision, you're not going. And for the most part, she just deals with it and moves on. But anyway, if we can relate, we can reason, okay? Alrighty, where are we at? Okay, so co-regulation. This is really important. And I read somewhere, do any of you follow Brene Brown or know who Brene Brown is? She's an amazing author. I love a lot of her stuff. She has a book out right now called Atlas of the Heart. I haven't finished reading it, but she's a researcher, and she's just done like 20, 30 years on emotions and feelings and relationships and connection. And there was always a theory out there that, you need to love yourself, and it's still a theory, you need to love yourself before you can love someone else. What we're really learning in the field of trauma and kids and body science and nervous systems is we really need to be loved first before we're able to get out there and love other people. So what that means is we as kids and all people need co-regulation, but especially kids. Our kids developmentally as 5, 6, 10, 12, 13-year-olds, they don't have the developmental capabilities yet of self-regulation. They just don't. Remember, the brain's not fully developed till 26. Most of the self-regulation stuff comes in here. Now, some of them are ahead of the game and they're able to do it better. It's the way they're wired, or it's the way they've been conditioned, or the environment they're in. But our kids really need co-regulation. And that's that supportive process, between the adult and the child, fostering self-regulation. So when we say to our kid, get it together, that's not really helping. They're like, I don't know how to get it together. If I did, I would, right? I remember one time a practitioner said to me, like my ADHD son, who could hardly organize himself to get out the door, when you say to them, go clean your room, he literally was like, how? What do you mean? How do I do that? What does that look like? I literally don't know what to do. And I think of regulation a lot the same way. So how do we help them? We provide that warm, responsive relationship. I will tell you, and I have to pay attention to this too. My own daughter has said this to me. But the kids I work with, tell me on a daily basis. All my parents do is this. I've had first graders tell me that. I've had third graders tell me that. And we need to start paying attention to that. We need to pay attention to that. I had a little first grader who barely speaks English. She's Hispanic. She moved here just a year ago from somewhere in South America. And I said to her, are you coming to open house? This was a couple weeks ago. She said, oh, no. Oh, you would love her. She goes, oh, no, we no come. We no come. And even if we did, my papa, the whole time he do this. That's at 6. That's what she's picked up on. I had a third grade boy a couple months ago in a classroom. We were talking about problem solving and how our family handles problems and how we solve things. That then lends to how do I problem solve with my friends, with my peer, when my teacher says something I don't like. And the boy stood up. He literally stood up. He goes, oh, we don't do any of that in our house. No, because my parents, they're always busy. They're always busy. They're always working. They're always doing this. So we don't do any talking. And it just has been shocking to me when my own daughter, a couple times, like, Mom, you're always on your phone. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. She goes, yeah, you are. Well, she is on it 3 times as much as I am. And that is fact. But she doesn't see that. She doesn't care about that. All she sees is the 1 or 2 times she's wanted to talk to me about something. And I literally just sat down. And I'm like, just give me a minute. She hears and sees, you're too busy for me. So I have had to learn to just put it away. Okay, what's going on? Tell me. Because usually what she wants takes 2 minutes, right? And then she's off to something else. But I'm just telling you that because that's what our kids are seeing, or that's what they're saying to us. So how are we engaging, connecting? I heard that theme all day today. Structuring your environment, it goes back to, again, not giving into those rules, having agreements, having strict bedtimes, having a routine for bedtime. I'm always amazed at how many kids tell me they don't ever read books with their parents anymore. I'm like, oh, that makes me so sad. It's such a great time to connect, and there's so many wonderful things you can do with that. But that predictable structure of our environment and what comes next, and this is my routine for bed, and this is my routine for the morning, this is how we do it, that predictability creates calm for our kids, right? And that alone is regulating and can reduce some of those blow-ups and some of those moments where they're just losing it. And then teaching and coaching those self-regulation skills. It's really just us paying attention to how are we handling ourselves? How are we modeling it? How do we talk about it? And knowing that they are watching us all the time. All the time they're learning from us. Okay. When a child can't calm down, they need connection and comfort, not criticism and control. And I get it. There's so many times I want to control the situation too, like, again, just stop. Just get it to stop, right? But I haven't seen it really work yet. What does work is that connection and providing comfort as best I can, or stepping out until I'm able to come back and provide it. I just love this image of co-regulating. Sadly, when a kid is in that first stage of that red rage, right, we want to become punitive, or we want to start imposing restrictions or expectations or discipline. And the image here of just letting them have their moment and slowly closing in and just seeing how it naturally can start to de-escalate. Like I said, all the problem solving and all the I would prefer we handle it this way can happen later. All right. So managing your own stress. Self-care. I think the biggest things are setting boundaries for yourself, for your kids. What is it, our values in our home? What are our limits in our home? What is something we can accept? What are things we don't accept? I like the example Marty used with his teenager, I need you home at some point. I will, navigate with you from here to here, but this is the boundary. This is the limit at this point. This is when I need you home. This is when I need you to be done. This is whatever it is. But really setting those boundaries emotionally, logistically, and all those things learning to say no. And what I mean is not necessarily to our kids, but to all the other things out there, and really prioritizing yourself. And the other thing is get in community. I mean, coming here today is huge, and I'm so glad that you were, interested enough to do that. But, if your school is offering something where other parents can connect, get in connection with other people. I think post-COVID, we've been so isolated still. And the more you begin to open up and share kind of the struggles you have as a parent, you find like 3 more people go, oh my gosh, we went through that. Oh my gosh, we're dealing with that right now too. Yeah, we've been there. We're all dealing with stuff. So get in connection. Try not to isolate yourself. All right. Sorry. Oh, and unplug a little bit. Unplug. Okay, so these are just some resources. If you want to take a snapshot, that's fine. You can grab that. Again, all of these slides will be available online after, so all the websites, those are active live links. But there are great resources online. And then in my opinion, there's some others too that aren't really that great. So I think these were ones that have really been helpful to me in my work and some of the people that I work with. There's a lot of really great podcasts and social media pages, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. These are some of the people that I like to follow here in the right box, in the right side, because it's just little nuggets, right? And you're like, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought about that before. Oh, I could handle it that way. You're not reading a whole book and being overwhelmed. But if you're a reader and you like books, those are great resources too. Okay. I think that's the last slide, yeah. And thank you for attending.